Good morning, everybody.
Good
Love you.
afternoon, everybody.
Yeah, good morning for me.
Good afternoon from me.
Good morning on the West Coasters. Yeah. I
Yeah.
guess I guess I'm the only time zone that it's still morning, even mountain times at noon. Mountain time,
Yeah.
all our mountain time attendees are sitting here eating a sandwich. I'm jealous.
Hey,
They're eating
perfect.
some leftovers.
Right?
That's
Eating
awesome.
their
Well,
lunch.
yeah, a show and food, right? That's
There you
that's
go.
what
That's
we
perfect.
do. Well, welcome to the call. Hopefully, everybody has sorted out their microphone and their speakers, and they can hear us by now. So
Yeah.
hopefully, we're ready to roll. We are very excited. Sabrina and I are very excited to head into this discussion. So we're on discussion two, and we're very excited to talk to you guys today about phone skills. Big thank you to NAPA for putting us together in this virtual room here. They're the ones who facilitated getting us all put together. So thank you to NAPA for getting us all in this room. But let's go ahead and get started. Let's jump right in.
Started. Yeah, let's do it. Perfect. Well, you guys saw this slide last time, right? We introduced you to us, we introduced you to Elite. But I just wanted to take a moment to recap right there. If you look on the circle that says who we are, remember that we live by the principle of never putting money ahead of people. Okay, I just thought it was important that we chat about that for just a few moments. Again, just a quick reminder that that's what we believe in. Okay, so everything that we teach, all of our programs, this one included, stands on that same principle of never putting money ahead of people. So we are the people-focused company, and anything that you guys hear us teach is going to be centered around that. So as advisors, basically what I want from you guys is to shift your priority, shift your focus to have that same mindset of never putting money ahead of people. We recognize, and hopefully you guys all recognize as well, that if you put people first, if you just treat people like humans, right? The profit, the money, that will all come, but we have to do what's right first and foremost so that we can build a relationship and keep them coming back. So just want to take a few moments to chat about that.
I
Thanks,
love that.
Tom.
It's a fine line as you're talking. I want to be careful because there's a difference between never putting money ahead of people and selling with your own wallet, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I think people hide behind the, oh well, I just want to put them first. I don't want to step on their toes. I want to let them make their own decision. And advisors can sometimes have this fear of like, oh, that's a lot of money, or I wouldn't do it if I were them. Like that, like, oh, this is just so much money. I don't have that money. They can't have that money, right? And they
Yeah.
get they get scared and they kind of hide behind, well, I'm just going to kind of let them do their thing, right? So those two are very different. So we need to make sure that we aren't being unethical and we aren't being dishonest, right? We want to make sure that we're putting people first and we're taking care of them. But also to do that, to take care of people and put them first, we also have an ethical obligation to make sure that they understand everything that's going on with their vehicle and that they're making the decisions that they're making, not out of a fight or flight situation, not out of panic mode, but that they're making it with the right decisions and the right information. So that was just a thought I had on that. So
Yeah.
let's
No,
uh,
that's perfect. I think we're going to dive a lot into that next week in our final session too, right? So that's a great point, Tom.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Sabrina. And that brings us to this. Well, so what are we
Yeah.
gonna what are we gonna cover today and in the next session, right? So big old slash through people focus. We did that last week. Big old thumbs up, right? We know now that we've got to focus on people first. Today, what we're going to be talking about is those phone skills, right? Those tactical things you can do when you pick up the phone in the shop, when you've got that qualified buyer or that qualified potential customer, how you can navigate that conversation, not just be a glorified receptionist, but truly take a strategic approach to that conversation to get them in, get them scheduled in with a technician, so that way you can give them the good, accurate information that you need to give them. Then from there, next week, what we're going to talk about is selling service, the down and dirty, the nitty gritty of what we do when we're presenting work to a customer and the way in which we present that without making their anxiety skyrocket, right? And make them freak out like, oh my gosh, I came in for an oil change and you're telling me I need $10,000 of repairs, right? How we navigate that so that way we don't have that fight or flight reaction. So that's the agenda for the next couple weeks, today and next week. So let's jump right in. Let's get to it.
Let's, yeah, let's do it. Well, first and foremost, we talked about how to best benefit last week, but I just kind of want to re-go over this. And I want to start with the objective of today's session, right? Which is to teach you as service advisors how to convert qualified phone calls and price shoppers into into appointments. So Tom used this term just a moment ago. He said qualified, right? Qualified phone calls. So just to let you guys know what we mean by this is a phone call that you receive where it's something that you can actually do at your shop, right? So for an example, if someone's calling in and they're like, hey, can I get a pizza, right? A pepperoni pizza, uh, that's not considered a qualified lead. Although Tom would probably be more than willing to get that pizza for you, right, Tom?
I'm all about it. Hey, I'll
There
go
you
pick
go.
up a pizza. I might pick up an extra one for myself, but like I'll find a way to get some pizza. I'll always find a way to
Right.
get pizza.
I love it. I love it. And hey, sometimes maybe we have that, right? Maybe we got a pizza shop next door and we can go do that. But for the most part, a lot of us can't do that. Therefore, it's not considered a qualified lead, right? Or let's say you don't work on Europeans or maybe you don't work on diesels and the customer on the other end is calling in asking for a quote on one of those things, right? So if it's not something that you do at your shop, this is not what we're talking about today. We're talking about those qualified ones that you can work on. Okay. So we're going to help you convert that qualified lead into an appointment. So that's kind of the goal for today. And then I just wanted to remind you guys of that fixed mindset versus growth mindset, right? Remember to take on that growth mindset, keep an open mind, be in the sandbox, right? Be looking for things and ways that you can be better to better help our customers and people within our community. So remember, as we go through today, right, we're going to say and do things that are maybe a little different than how you're doing them now, but be open-minded, be willing to try this process. You're going to see how it can help you, but you've got to take on that growth mindset for me, please. And it also may be a little uncomfortable, but Tom and I are going to role play it out for you so you can hear just how natural it can sound when it comes together once you have that constant repetition. So.
Yeah, the big thing is just get in the sandbox. You got to try it, right? So we'll give you the script. We'll give you the ways that we do it and the reasons why we do it the way we do it, and then it's up to you guys to try it, right? You gotta get in the sandbox and give it a shot. So awesome. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is start with some fundamentals, some groundwork, right? So we'll get into like the script and we'll get into the exactly what we should do when we're on that phone call. But before we get there, there's some fundamental pieces to the interaction and to the communication that we need to cover first. So the first thing we want to do is we want to recognize a couple things here. We want to recognize that the caller is interested in a solution and that it's our job to provide some finality. Now, I know that may sound like really basic and like, well, duh, like, yeah, they want their brakes fixed, right? They want a solution, but it's easy to get lost in the conversation and forget to be driving to that solution and that finality, right? I was listening to a call. It was a recorded call with an advisor and a potential customer. And the customer called in and he did his, cordial, hey, this is so-and-so with, this automotive company. How can I help you? And he says, hey, I need Freon in my car. Do you guys carry, it was like 1, 2, 3, whatever it was, a type of Freon, right? And the advisor goes, yeah, we carry that. We can do that. But we wouldn't just, put that in your car. We wouldn't just top it off. And then he just kind of stops, right? And then the customer thinks through it and says, well, like it's low, it needs Freon. He's like, well, like if it's low, then there's something going on with the system. It's a closed system. It doesn't just get low, like there's a leak or there's something going on. Like we need to take a look at it and figure out why it is the way it is. Not totally wrong, right? Like not totally wrong, but it's the way he went about it. And then again, he kind of like stops, right? And the customer's thinking, and he's like, well, it won't stay cold, right? He's still trying to search for his solution here, right? And he's having to do all this work on his own. It's like it won't stay, like it won't blow cold, like I'm pretty sure it needs Freon. He's like, oh, it probably does. The advisor comes out, oh, it probably does, but like the why it needs Freon is kind of the issue. We need to get it in and do an inspection and figure out, what exactly is going on with the system. And then finally, he does this magical thing where he asks a question. And it for once actually moves the conversation forward. They were stuck in this cycle of not really communicating well. And he finally asks a question, says, well, what's the make and model of your vehicle? And you can almost like feel the weight removed from the customer because like he's like, I can give you that. Like I know that, right? So he gives them the make and model, and then they continued, and it was just this very convoluted call. And eventually, I kid you not, at one point in this call, the client goes, he goes, bro, this can't be that complicated. Isn't that funny? Like, bro, this can't be that complicated. I'm like, you're right. It should not be that complicated. But the problem is sometimes we forget, we see it, we see a problem, right? Like, oh, they want a price, or oh, they want me to just, put Freon in the car. Oh, they want me to just put pads on the car. And we get hung up there and we get stuck on this, no, we can't do that. And here's the reason why, or whatever it is. We get stuck and we don't remember to drive past it to the solution, right? So remember that they need a solution. For this customer, he just needed his Freon fixed, right? Whether that meant an inspection or not, it didn't matter, as long as there was an easy, simple solution and a direction to bring it there, right? If the investor said, yeah, absolutely, I'd be happy to help you with that. Let me ask a few questions, figure out what's going on. How long has it not been blowing cold? Why do you think you need Freon? What other symptoms are you experiencing, right? If he had asked some good questions and then said, yeah, we absolutely can help with that. We carry that Freon. We'd be more than willing to take care of that for you. The first thing we need to do is figure out why it needs Freon, right? Because it's whatever, right? Give the explanation. Say we can get you in for that inspection. It can be today or tomorrow. What works best for you? No problem. Make it easy and provide that finality and that solution. Make it very easy to bring it in, right? So that's something that we really need to remember. The next thing that we need to remember is that the caller is anxious. Okay, and what we mean by that is they didn't wake up. I think we talked about this last week, right? They didn't wake up, roll out of bed, and say, you know what, I really want to go hang out with my favorite service advisor, right? Like something went wrong, and they're at this point where now they need to call and get something fixed, right? Their life has kind of been, taking an unexpected detour. And our number one job as service advisors is to lower that anxiety. And so when we're on the phone with them, we have to recognize that anxiety is up. And we also have to recognize that while this is your comfort zone oftentimes, right? This is what you do 40 hours a week or more, right? You're answering calls, you're at the shop, you're there. This is comfortable, right? For them, this isn't. This is not their comfort zone, right? This is, dang it, I gotta call this shop, I gotta talk to this person, I don't know who they are, and they're gonna do it, they're like doing it grudgingly, right? And then they do it, and then then they got you, right? So recognize that they're stepping outside of their comfort zone. While you do this 1,000 times a day, they don't. And so take the time, slow down, meet them where they're at, and recognize that anxiety that's going on, and take that individual care of them.
Yeah, Tom, I was telling you yesterday, actually, like for the longest time, I did not like making phone calls. Doctor's appointments, car repairs. I was like, hey, mom, can you do this? Right? I'm an adult with 2 kids, but I would call my mom for these things for a while, right?
Disappointment. Yeah.
Yeah.
She does the
So,
same thing. She's like, anytime she can schedule with a text, she's doing it. And then when she can't, she's trying to get me to do it for her. I'm like, no, this is good for you. You go make that call.
right? Uh, so I think with you saying like people are anxious, that's one of the things that comes to mind too, right? Like, of course we're anxious. They don't want to have car issues, but sometimes picking up the phone for a lot of people, that in itself can cause some anxiety too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the next thing we have on here, guys, is that price is all they know to ask, and it starts a conversation. So I was talking to a manager one day, and we were using the term price shopper, right? And him and I got into like a little talk about it. And he's like, I really don't like that term, price shopper. And we kind of, again, we had a little back and forth, little discussion, and I totally get where he was coming from. I think we use the term price shopper because it's what's easiest, right? The easiest way to kind of put it. But the reality of it is, guys, is that the client doesn't know what other questions to ask when they call us, right? When they're finally getting over that anxiety and they're picking up the phone, they don't know what else to ask. They
Hey,
don't know to ask.
Sabrina, so you're telling me when you were a service advisor, you didn't have your customers calling you asking, saying like, hey, Sabrina, how many of your technicians are ASC certified? They weren't asking you that?
No, they probably don't even know what that means, right?
Probably not.
They don't.
Probably
Well,
didn't.
that's a great point, Tom. Like, they don't know to ask about the certificates of our technicians, right? They don't know to ask what kind of training they've been through, if they can work on their car, if they're qualified, right? They don't know to ask about us and how long we've been there and if we like to work there or how long the company's been in business or our warranty, right? Or the quality of the parts that we use. I mean, we could go on and on and on here of things that they just don't know to ask, right? And so if they don't know what to ask other than price, then that's what they're going to ask to help start this conversation. And then it's then up to us to find out what they really need, right? Going back to that solution that Tom talked about a little while ago. We've got to guide them to the right place to get the solution, but we don't want to get jaded. I feel like we get very jaded here where we say like, oh, everybody's calling for price right now. Just all we have is price shoppers right now. Nobody's buying, right? We get into that stuck mindset, that fixed mindset. We get pretty jaded. And that really it really affects the quality of the calls that we're having, right? When we get like that. So we just need to recognize that they don't know what else to ask us, and it's up to us to help guide them.
We had a master's student, Eugene. I don't know if you remember him, but he worked at a Euro specific shop, and he had a client call, and they had gotten a quote from the dealership, and he told Eugene, he told him, he said, I'm calling around. I got one quote from the dealership. I've got another quote. I'm calling, getting quotes, comparing, what I got from the dealership. I'm just looking for a price quote. I need to know how much this would be. So Eugene, being the master, service advisor that he is, yeah, absolutely, I'd be happy to help you with that. And worked him through what was going on, asked him good questions, got him scheduled in for an inspection. And then ultimately the gentleman moved forward with work at Eugene's shop, ended up paying more than he was going to pay at the dealership, and was happy to do it, right? And so I mean, you're spot on. We've just got to, even if they truly are price shoppers, that's okay, right? We've got to navigate the conversation. Got to get them scheduled in, right, and get them in for that appointment. So yeah, don't have that jaded mentality against them, right? That's all they know how to ask. They've been trained that way.
Yeah, and I think that actually really leads perfectly into this one, Tom, of you as an advisor, you need to know why they should choose you and your company, right? So I'm sure Eugene there, he knew what made his company stand out
Yeah.
against the dealership, right? He knew what made them different. He knew why it was in the best interest of the client to come to him. He felt that, right? He felt those benefits and he was able to then, kind of give those or portray those to the client in a way that the client felt that too, right? They felt like, hey, this is the right place with the right people. So although I may be paying more and maybe their warranty isn't as great, right? Maybe it's a little bit less. It doesn't matter. I feel good about this. And
Yeah.
a lot happens when we feel good about something, right? And we're kind of more willing to make some expectations or, let some things go. But it starts with you guys. If you don't know why you work there, if you don't know what the benefits of your shop is, if you don't know how you stand apart, it's going to be harder to then tell the client that. So actually last week, I asked you all to do an assignment, right? To write your PSP, your personal sales presentation. That's what I'm talking about here. Doing that discovery, that PSP, that's how you're going to be able to then help a first-time anxious caller feel comfortable coming into your shop. So make sure you guys did that.
So they should all know by now, right? They
They
should all
should.
know.
They should if they did their homework.
If they didn't do it now, do it this week.
Now it all makes sense, guys, right? Here's a great time where you can use that PSP too. The other thing I have here is to know the benefits of your services by heart. And we've got this radio station here, this WIIFM. We talk about this in the master's program. All of us, you and me, we all have this thing on our forehead, this WIFM, okay, this radio station here. And this stands for what is in it for me, right? How do I benefit from getting this service done? How do I win from getting this done? How does my vehicle win from getting this done? We should all know what the benefits of all of our services are, okay? No matter what you're recommending, it should be backed by a benefit, which we'll actually dive a little deeper into next week. But for the sake of phone calls, okay, a lot of our phone calls, they start with the client asking for a quote for something, okay? And we're then trying to convert them into an appointment to do an inspection. So I'm curious from you guys, if you guys can write there in the chat or the Q&A for me, what are benefits of testing, right? What is the benefit to the client to come in and let us perform testing versus just giving them an estimate or a quote over the phone? I'm going to wait for some of these responses to come in. I'm curious. Share your guys' thoughts. Because again, in this example, right, we're selling them on testing. We test, don't guess. I like that, Chrissy. Great. Proper diag and repair. It's great, Adam. Testing leads to an accurate quote and repair. Yeah. Lots of things coming in here. Ensure we fix the problem that we're having. Accurate results, accuracy, right? A lot of ones coming in. Sorry if I'm missing you guys. Awesome responses. I love these. I agree, right? When it comes to this, it's going to be peace of mind that your vehicle is going to be fixed right the first time, right? Save you time and money by ensuring that we get it fixed properly, right, the first time. Save time and money, making sure we're not just throwing parts at the vehicle that may not fix it, right? Accuracy, right? That peace of mind. So much of those are fantastic. And these are the things that we should be telling our clients, right? I know to us as advisors, we may think that they already know these things, but they don't. We need to tell them what the benefits of these services are.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, great comments in here, right?
Yeah,
They're
fantastic
showing
comment.
things they actually need and not things they don't, right? I love that. The big thing, right? This always goes back to like, Sabrina's point, what's in it for me? We have to remember that people are selfish, right? So like, if you've got
What?
something, oh yeah, they want to know what's in it for them. They don't care about you, right? They don't know you yet. And to tell people like, if they're asking for a price quote and you say something along the lines of, oh, that's against our policy, right? Oh, we don't give price over the phone because, whatever, right? We found that, that doesn't help us or whatever, right? If it's not based on some reason that's intrinsically better for them, they don't care about it. They don't care about your policy. They don't care that you don't want to, right? But if it's in their best interest, aha, now we're on to something, right? We want to make sure we save you time and money by giving you an accurate estimate, right? If they're comparing another estimate, like, hey, we'd love bring that with you when you come in. We'd love to make sure we're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges or apples to birthday cake, right? Like we want to make sure that we're looking at true comparisons here. We want to make sure that we're quoting the right parts and the things that we ultimately end up moving forward with are the right things. And one of the other things with that too, we need to make sure when we're talking about these benefits and we're talking about these things that we don't put too much pressure on them, right? At this point, like if we're selling some testing or we're on this phone call, we need to get them to bring it in, and we'll talk more about this in a minute. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but we need to make sure that we're getting them in for the appointment and not trying to get them in for the work, right? We're not saying, oh yeah, oh you've got this issue going on, we can fix it, bring it in, we'll fix it, right? If we don't know exactly what's going on, maybe it's a check engine light, maybe we need to do some testing, we need to sell some testing. Well, we sell the testing, right? We don't sell like, hey, like, hey, once we've done this and we know exactly what's going on, you'll have the peace of mind, you'll have all the answers, you'll have this 27-point health and safety inspection or whatever it is, right? The level 1 testing will have been completed, we'll have a full written report for you. And then if ultimately you'd like us to move forward with it, we'd be happy to do that. If not, that's totally fine too, right? So you kind of take the pressure off. They don't feel like they're trapped getting the work done with you to get some answers, right? So that's another thing to keep in mind is where are we putting the pressure, right? Don't put the pressure on, hey, once you come in, you're married to us, we're gonna take the wheels off, you're stuck here, right? So make sure we give them that flexibility. Okay, so the next one is follow a procedure and be a great detective. I really love this one. All good salespeople are great detectives, right? So we've got to put that thinking cap on, that question asking hat, and ask really good questions. When they say, oh, hey, I need a price quote on this, or hey, I need this. Okay, great. Why do you think you need that? How long has that been going on? Have you noticed any other symptoms? Are there any lights on the dash? You notice any smells, anything burning, anything sweet, any sounds? Does it happen all the time? Is it intermittent? Does it happen, at fast speeds or slow speeds? Like when do you notice this, right? Do you notice any liquids dripping from the vehicle? Anything else that you're noticing, right? Asking these questions can give you a lot of information that your technicians are going to absolutely love you for having. But on top of that, asking these questions really puts you in a position of, I'm here to help you, right? It really, those clients now don't look at you as this person who's just here to take their money, right? Think about it this way. If you get a customer that calls and says, I've got a check engine light on and I need to figure out, what it takes to turn it off, right? They probably understand that there might need to be some level of testing here, right? But if the first thing you say is, yeah, absolutely, our check engine light testing is $159.95, I can get you in right now, or when do you want to bring it in? Or you do that, right? The first thing you said beyond I have a check engine light is, before I can talk to you, I need you to agree to pay me money.
Mhm.
That's what you told them. That may not be the exact words you used, but that's what you communicated.
That's what they heard,
That's
right?
what I heard, right? So before we go there, we say, oh, yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to help you with that. right? How long's the check engine light been on? All right. Do you know, like we start asking these good questions, right? These good follow-up questions, these fact-finding questions. Now that like I'm showing that I'm genuinely interested in solving their problem, their concern is important to me. And then when I say, you know what, this could be a few things, we do need to get it in. I've got a fantastic technician, he's like an expert diagnostician. I'd love to get it in his hands. He's incredibly efficient. This is what it's going to look like. This is what we're going to do, and this is what it's going to cost. I can get you in at 2 o'clock today or 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. What's better for you, right? Now all of a sudden that has a lot more weight to it. They're more willing to do that because I've invested some time in them, right? And this whole process makes a lot more sense. So be a good detective, ask good questions, and follow a procedure. We'll give you our procedure, but if you don't want to use ours, use something, right? No, you've agreed to use ours, right?
Yeah.
Use ours, right? For at least a few weeks, you got to use ours. If you want to use something different after that, by all means, go for it. But we're in the sandbox together. They're going to use our process, but follow
Yeah.
the procedure, right? Don't just be shooting from the hip, right? Take a very strategic approach to the way you navigate those conversations. Don't be again that glorified receptionist, right? When you take that phone call, we're playing chess, right? We're saying things the right way. We've got the good tonality. Everything we say has purpose and a meaning to it, right? So follow that procedure.
Really quickly, Tom, I just wanted
Yeah.
to add that we should be thinking like doctors here, right? Just like if you go to the doctor's office and you're telling them about symptoms that you're having, or hey, I'm coming in with this upset stomach, they're going to ask additional questions so that they can figure out what do we need to do from here, right? So basically, we've got to ask questions so we can determine what kind of testing do we need so that we can go and then get the diagnostic, right? Get the diagnosis for you. But we've got to do testing first. But just have that thinking cap on of like, hey, I'm like a physician, I'm like a doctor here, right? I've got to ask good questions so I can figure out where we need to go to next.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So the next one here that's really important to the fundamentals is that we need to recognize that the first thing we need to sell is ourselves. We sell ourselves first. Okay. Now I'm not talking out on the street corner, right? That's not what I'm advocating here, right? When we say sell yourself first, we've got to recognize that people buy from people, right? Not companies. People buy from people, not companies. So ultimately, the reason why they dialed the phone might have been your Google ads, right? Might have been a referral. They might have just found you online, right? Whatever it is, right? So they dialed you, but ultimately when they make the decision to purchase from you and have repairs done through you, it's because of you, right? You, the service advisor, the person on the other end of the phone, the person that's communicating with them at the counter, right? Ultimately, that's who they're buying from. They're buying from the people they communicate with. So recognize that the first thing we need to do is sell ourselves. We need to develop a relationship. They need to like us, right? We need to develop that, right? We talked about this last week, right? Like you, trust you, and view you as a credible expert, right? That is the first thing we need to do is establish that relationship, and you need to sell yourself. So that's the first thing. Remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing we have on here is to paint mental pictures and use minor closes. Okay. So let me start with the first part, the paint mental pictures or paint mental images. For me, I think a lot about analogies, right? A lot of us can, sometimes there's things that we say in the automotive industry that people can't really relate to, that they don't see it, they don't understand it. So if we can use an analogy to help paint that mental image for them, I think that goes a long way. Somebody wrote, I believe, in the Q&A, oh, let's see, AutoZone said I need this, right? So basically, picture this scenario. Probably by chance you've heard of this a time or two, right? But you get a phone call from somebody and they're like, hey, I took my vehicle to some parts store and I've got, this check engine light on and they're telling me I have a misfire with code P0, whatever, right? Can you give me a quote on spark plugs? Okay, let me know. Have you ever heard of that before? Right? And so then you're trying to navigate the conversation. You're trying to do those fact-finding things, and maybe you get that, well, they already diagnosed it. They already kind of told me what it was. Paint that image for them. Kind of relate this in a way that they may understand. And the way that I like to do this is for this specific example is the zip code analogy. Okay, so I'm not sure. Maybe you've already heard of this, but it goes something like this, right? Let's say you're trying to invite me to your house for a party, okay? And you give me your zip code. If you give me your zip code, that's going to get me in a general area, but it's not going to get me to your house for that birthday party, right? The code that you got from so and so, right? It works pretty much the same, right? It's like a zip code. So it gets me in the general area of where I need to be, but it doesn't tell me the specific component that's failed or even what caused that specific component to fail, right? So paint that mental image for the client. We love to use, doctor analogies, as you heard just a few moments ago. So think about it like this. Tom, let's say that you have a hurting arm. Okay, your arm's hurting really bad. So you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, "Okay, Tom, based off all the things that you've given me, I think we need to start with an X-ray. So let's go ahead and get that X-ray done." So you get that X-ray done. Doctor calls you a day later or so, and he's like, "Hey, I didn't see anything from that X-ray. I think we need to go ahead and do the MRI." Okay. Do you think the doctor wasted your time or money by getting that X-ray done?
No, heck no. I'm glad he started there instead of like jumping straight to the MRI and spending thousands of dollars on the MRI. Absolutely.
Right, exactly. So this is an analogy that I love, guys, especially if you're having to go back and you're having to sell additional testing, or maybe you have to give a range for testing and maybe the client's not understanding why. Same thing, right? Like, hey, let's say you go to the doctor with that hurting arm and they do an X-ray first. They don't find anything, so then they move on to the MRI, right? That they didn't waste your time or money. In fact, the doctor was trying to do the opposite, right? He was trying to save you time and money by doing the X-ray first, but it didn't find what he needed, right? He didn't see anything there. So then he needs to move on to the next step. So this is what I mean by mental images, right? Paint these pictures by using analogies. And then minor closes, those are like those small yeses we get from our clients. So I like to say things like, does that make sense? Or did I explain that okay? Right? These things that help to ensure that the client's on the same page as me. They've kind of understood where I'm at, and then I can move on from there. But I want to make sure no one's confused. So if I want to make sure I explain something correctly, or if I just want to make sure, maybe I sense a little, hesitantness from the client, I may use a minor close like that. I love those.
Love
I
it.
use those quite often. I use those with my kids now too, guys. Um, Never allow the caller to control the conversation. The mind is binary. So oftentimes, right, sometimes you get on the phone and if you don't control that conversation, if you don't ask good questions, the client may go on a different direction. Okay. We need to make sure that we're targeting that client's thought process. And to do this, we have to ask really good questions, like Tom talked about earlier. So ask those questions, kind of direct them on where to go, target that. When it says the mind is binary, basically what that means is if they are listening to you, if they are trying to listen at the question you're asking them, they can't be speaking, right? They're listening so that they can then answer the question that you're asking. So the person basically asking the questions is the one that's in control of the conversation.
I love it. It really just asking good questions really kind of helps drive us to that ultimate end solution, right? Like I think those two are really, really similar, right? Like if we don't ask good questions and we just kind of talk and then we just say, okay, like we stop talking, we say your turn, right? Like, and then they start talking, we have no idea what they're going to talk about, right? Like they could go circle back around and then be like, well, how much does that cost, right? Like
Yeah.
they may go back to price, they may go back, well, when, how long does it take or whatever? Who knows what they're going to ask, right? But if we ask good targeted questions, we give them the information they need, we ask a good follow-up question, we drive towards the solution, their mind is going to be binary from think, speak, right? And they're going to be thinking about the answer to give you to your question, right? So we control that conversation through questions and recognizing that thought process, that psychology there. Yep, love it. So this one is great. So view challenging callers as opportunities. I think, Sabrina mentioned earlier, like being jaded. It's easy to like, you'll get frustrated when we get that challenging caller, right? That just really gets under our skin. Like, how dare you? Like it's easy to take it personal, but like we need to view those as opportunities to help influence others, right? Recognize that, maybe they've got a lot going on in their life and they're kind of coming in as a rain cloud, but don't let that rain cloud affect you, right? Be the sunshine to their rainy day. So positively affect those, view those as opportunities, view those as challenges, gamify it, right? Like turn it into a challenge. Be like, I'm going to make this person laugh if it's the last thing I do, right? Like, or I'm going to, I'm going to be there. I'm going to show up. I'm going to smile. I'm going to see how long I can, I call it, hanging in the pocket, right? Staying relevant for as long as you can, right? So just stay in a good mood, take care of them, view them as opportunities, not as challenges, right? So view them as opportunities. And then lastly here, record your calls for review. Definitely be recording your calls. If you guys don't have a system in place to record calls, there's lots of call recording softwares, VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol. I think like Ring Central. There's a bunch of different companies out there that do that. Talk to your shop owners and your managers because recording calls can do wonders. We literally were just on a call earlier today, talking to somebody who had a system. A sale kind of blow up. They got the approval for the sale, and it turns out they have like Alzheimer's or something going on, and they ended up having to comp some work at like to the tune of like $2,500 because they were adamant that they never approved it and all these different things. And so recording calls can cover you, but also it provides you the opportunity to be like, oh my gosh, I don't know where that went off the rails. It definitely went off the rails. It did not go the way I thought it was going to go. I want to listen to that. And you can go and review your own calls. Nobody loves doing it, right? Nobody's like, oh, I love to hear myself speak. If you do, like I don't know, maybe you're I don't know, self-indulge or something. I don't know, but nobody loves listening to their own calls, but there's so much growth that can come from it. So we highly encourage you guys to do that. Listen to your records. Recording the call can help. Somebody posted here. When you can't get a signed repair order or text, I'll be texting my manager. Yep, absolutely. Recording those calls can be very helpful. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to shift gears a little bit. So we talked about some of the fundamentals, some of the thought processes, right? Like how we need to view the situation, how we can prepare for the situation. Now what we want to talk about is like the actual taking of the call, right? What are the steps? So we'll outline these steps and then we'll show you these steps in action. So pay attention to these steps because then you'll be able to see them and call them out as we do this in a role play. But yeah, so let's look at the steps.
Yeah, so this first one here says smile and follow a procedure, right? We need to make sure that we're smiling. I think I talked about this, pretty extensively last week. I mentioned to you guys that a lot of my service advisors, a requirement of the master's program, in fact, is to have a mirror up so that we can remember to smile. Actually, I thought it was so funny. I was teaching a class this weekend, Tom, and I had said this to some of the students and some of the advisors, and another advisor looks at the other one, they start laughing, and I'm like, okay, what's going on there? And she goes, she needs this. She's got a little bit of RBF, like, right? Like, hopefully we all know what that means, right? But like she's got a little bit of RBF. This
roasted brownie face? Like
yeah, you got it.
You're eating roasted brownies or something? Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Right on point.
Got my mirror right here too.
There you go. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. But oftentimes we don't recognize maybe that we're not smiling. So if we have that mirror right there, right, it's that constant reminder. We're going to look in it. We're going to see ourselves. Funny, you were just talking about phone calls, and I was listening to some recorded calls with this previous master student one time. And this master student, she's always very upbeat, very positive. She's like this ray of sunshine, okay? And we listened to her phone calls, and her and I both were like, who is that? That was not the same person. You can tell she wasn't smiling, right? And I was like, where's that mirror? Let's get that back up here, right? Let's do this. And it totally changed when she reminded herself she needed to have that mirror up, right? She got that bubbly, same personality that she usually had. So just remember to smile, okay? They can hear that. They can hear your tonality on the other end. And then we've got answer the call with a courteous salutation. Provide the caller with your name, right? And end your greeting with the question. I actually called an advisor yesterday, right? Yesterday, and they answered just by saying the shop name. So something like Elite Worldwide, and that was it. And in the moment, I was so focused on something else I was calling for. But afterwards, I called Tom and I was like, what the heck? Right? I was like, what is this guy doing? Right? Like, what? Elite Worldwide. That was it. Like, okay, I don't know where to go from there, right? I recognized the voice, so I knew who it was. So I then kind of directed the phone call from there. But how much different does it sound if I say, thank you for choosing Elite Worldwide. This is Sabrina. How may I help you? Right? Like it sounds more friendly, more inviting. We need to remember that first impressions are key here, guys. And if you just answer Elite Worldwide and that's it, that may not give off the best first impression, right? To me, that almost sounded like I was maybe inconveniencing him at the moment, right? He didn't really want to answer that phone call. So we just need to remember to have that courteous salutation, give the caller your name. Remember, you have to sell yourself first. If you're going to start that process, they need to know who they're talking to. And then end your greeting with a question. Again, I hear people sometimes that say, I can help you. But again, if you call, or if I call you and I need a pizza, right? You may not be able to help me with that. So if you start it with a question, you're also controlling that conversation from the very beginning by asking that first initial question. So remember to do that. Uh, and then I got use the caller's name and use it often. We have a pretty good rule. We like to say at least 3 times in a conversation to use their name. I don't know if anybody's ever read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Excuse me, it's a fantastic book. I definitely recommend it. In that book, Dale Carnegie says that the sweetest sound to us, or the sweetest sound in the human language or dictionary, right, is our name. Okay, so we should be using their name, and we should be using it at least 3 times. They want to hear that. I've had advisors in the past who's like, 3 times, that seems like a lot. No, right? It may feel more awkward to you than it's going to feel to them. So let me just kind of role play how this might sound. So Tom, you said you're coming in, you've got some grinding noise coming on your brakes. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah, yep, some grinding noise on the brakes. Yep.
Okay, Tom. And about how long has that been going on?
About a week.
About a week. Okay. And then Tom, have you noticed any lights on the dashboard?
Nope, no lights.
The lights on the dashboard. Okay. All right. All right, Tom. Thank you. Right? Like, how many times did I use it there? Sometimes I was a little quiet, so hopefully you guys
Oh,
got it.
how many times did she use it?
How many times?
I counted.
You did.
Tallied.
5, 5.
5. Yeah, 5.
Nice. Very
Yeah,
good.
5. They were counting too.
Nice. I love it. I love it, guys. That's fantastic, right? And did that feel awkward to you, Tom?
No, not all 6.
It didn't. Not all 6, right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't feel awkward
No.
at all.
To be
Doesn't
honest,
feel
guys, even for me, like it felt totally natural in the way that I said it, right? I didn't even count how many I said it. I just knew I said it multiple times, at least 3 times. That's my goal. And it doesn't feel unnatural at all. So please just use their name, okay? And use it at least 3 times in the conversation. That makes 6. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. Yeah, use the name. Use it often. Good stuff. Okay, so take notes and repeat statements made by the caller. You just heard an example of this, right? Like Sabrina was like, as she was asking me these questions, you could see her like taking notes. Like it's just a natural thing, like she just does.
I do. I do.
Like just taking notes, right? And that might look like, you're taking them on the keyboard, and that's okay, right? And you can even state that to the caller, like, hey, I'm just taking notes as we talk. I want to make sure that we get all these details down, right? But take notes. And as you're repeating the statements, that's going to help you with this next step here of avoiding dead air, right? And taking other calls, right? So be careful with hold, right? We talked about that, but avoid that dead air by filling it with repeating those statements, right? So, okay, so how long has this been on? About a week. Okay, about a week. Okay. And do you notice any other symptoms and any sounds that you're hearing? No sounds. Okay, so no sounds, right? You see, so like you can kind of repeat it as you're filling this out, right? That can kind of fill the dead space. But also the other thing that it's going to do, as you repeat it back to them, you're kind of, it's called parroting, right? So like you're kind of repeating the statement back, and that may give them some space to elaborate upon it, right? So yeah, no, so well, actually, it kind of does make a little bit of a sound, right? Like, or whatever it is, right? They may elaborate at that point after you've parroted it back. So repeat the statements, avoid dead space. Also offer options. This is really, really important. When it comes to getting that car scheduled in, we want to give them options. When you say, something like, oh yeah, well, we need to bring it in, we need to have it looked at. You can bring it in. What works best for you, right? Or would you like us to take a look at that, right? When you ask these questions, this is kind of a yes/no question. Really, at this point, we want to assume that we're where we need to be, that we've communicated effectively, they understand, we're all on the same page. Why would we assume anything else, right? So we need to assume that we're in the right spot, that we've communicated right, and we give them 2 options, yes options, right? Would you like to bring that in right now? I can make some time right now. I could have you in here in about 30 minutes, or I can get you in tomorrow morning at 8. Which works better for you, right? Which works better for your schedule? Now, both of those options are a yes, right? Yes, I can bring it in tomorrow, today, or yes, I can bring it in tomorrow. Ultimately, if they're not where they need to be and there is a lapse in communication, maybe they still have some follow-up questions, maybe they still don't understand the price or the time commitment or something like that, they'll ask, right? But why would we assume that we're not in the right place, right? So let's just ask that yes question, offer offer them those options, and then move forward with the close. And again, we'll kind of show you an example of this.
Yeah. Well, speaking of moving forward with the close, right? We should close, close, and close by continuing to ask for the appointment. So kind of like Tom said there, if you're going in, you're asking for the appointment, you're giving these two different options, and maybe they have other questions that come up, they want to clarify something. You want to make sure that you answer any questions that they have. Make sure that you don't sense that they're hesitant in any way, right? We want them to be comfortable and confident moving along and scheduling that appointment. Okay, so what it's saying here is make sure you answer all those questions, make sure they're comfortable, and then go back and ask for the appointment again once you know that you guys have kind of gotten to the right place that you need to be. And then the next one here, it says to reconfirm the appointment time, the service, and your location, right? So Tom, I've got you down at 8 a.m. tomorrow for our break service here, break inspection. Do you know where we're located?
Yeah, you guys are on the corner of First and Main, right?
Yep, exactly. First in Maine, you got it. Perfect. Easy peasy, right? I know this seems pretty standard, but sometimes we forget to do that. I've had advisors in the past where they had two locations very close to each other. One was like across the street, basically. And so oftentimes when they would search for the company, they would go to the other location. So they actually started texting over the right address, so it was easy on the GPS to find them. But if you have multiple locations or maybe there's another business close by that often get confused, make sure you confirm where you're located and confirm the appointment time, right? Uh, and then also on here, ask for the caller's phone number. Okay, I know a lot of advisors who go based off that caller ID, and we need to be very careful of this. We need to confirm the number and the best time to reach them, or possibly there could be two different numbers at two different times. This is coming from experience. I work or I live near a Navy base, excuse me, and one time I used that caller ID. And I went to call the client and I couldn't get a hold of them. And he eventually called me. It was pretty close to closing, probably like 5 minutes before closing. And he was like, I haven't heard from you yet. Come to find out the number was for the base. And they typically leave around 3 or 3:30, right? And so there was another number that I needed to reach him after that time frame, in which I didn't have. So just make sure that you get their phone number and you know the best way to reach them.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so with repeat customers who are calling to schedule service, review their vehicle history and recommend additional services as necessary. So this is the slow pitch over the plate for you guys. If you're not doing this, this would be an immediate action item that you could do that could boost your ARO and can boost your sales right now today, right? So if they call in, right, you get all that information, you get them plugged in, you're putting them in the system, look back, see what they deferred or declined last time, right? If they deferred like a brake fluid flush or they deferred, doing the back brakes because they were kind of in the yellow. They still had some pad wear left, right? Like this was 3 months ago, 6 months ago. Hey, Mr. Customer, looks like we had some work that we recommended last time. We ultimately decided to hold off on that. It's been a few months. Would you like us to get you on the schedule for that as well while you're here? Just kind of two birds, one stone. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that, right? Great. So like bring that up. And if they decline it, that's okay. No big deal. Hey, no big deal. We can hold off on that as well. Let's get you in for what we're looking at. Then in the inspection, where it's going to come up again, right? It better. And then we can have that conversation again. Hey, Mr. Customer, I know we declined this, but I just want you to be aware this has now moved from yellow to red. This is a very serious issue, right? Whatever you need to do, right? Again, not standing on fear, but we can bring it back up and have that conversation around it. And now it's already been had a few times, so it can have a little bit of weight. So make sure we're doing right by them by bringing those things back up. And now these two things are important, right? So this is the goal. This is what we're after in these phone calls. The goal is not to give the price over the phone, right? We're not a price directory, right? We're not giving price over the phone. Again, I think Sabrina mentioned earlier, like unless it's like, like menu items, like a tire or something like that. But even still, like if I can get them in, all the better, right? So don't give price over the phone. The goal is to make an appointment, get the vehicle into the shop for a professional inspection and an evaluation by a technician. Okay, that's our goal. That's what we're after. That's what we drive towards. So when we're on that call, I heard a call the other day, and this is, I don't know, this was probably a month or two ago, but the advisor was talking about the testing. There's some testing that needed to be done. So they were selling on the phone, which by the way, that's another pet peeve of mine. If there is some testing that needs to be accomplished, which we'll kind of show you an example of this, if you're on the phone and when they bring it in, they're going to have to pay for some testing, that should be part of the discussion on the phone, right? If I was a potential customer of yours, you say, oh yeah, bring it by, no big deal, bring it by, we'll take a look at it. And I get there and be like, oh yeah, like, well, we'll take a look at it, but it's going to cost you $189.95 for the level 1 testing or whatever it is, right? I'm like, whoa, no. You told me to bring it in, no big deal. You didn't tell me to bring it in, no big deal. It's $199, right? So make sure that we're upfront and honest and open about that. But we can still close on that. That's the whole point of the call, right? Recognize too that like if people say no, like that's okay. Don't be scared of no's. No's are your job, right? If no's if people just said yes and this was easy and the no's weren't a big deal, this would all just be automated. It'd be moved overseas. It would be handled via email or text, which some shops are going to anyways, right? But the no's are your job security. The no's are where you start doing your job. It's where you handle the objection, where you understand what's going on, you understand the thought process, and then you go back in and you help them schedule the appointment that they need, right? So we go in and we close the appointment. I heard a call and the advisor had mentioned that we needed to do some testing, gave the price, and there was some hesitancy on the client, and then the advisor goes like this. He says, "Well, tomorrow we open at 8. We're open all day, 8 to 5. Just bring it on by whenever whatever. Just hop on in, bring it on by." And that was it. Like that's how the call wrapped up. And he genuinely thought, oh yeah, he'll come in tomorrow. No, he will not. There's no shot, right? There was an objection, there was a hesitancy, and that was just the easier way to do it rather than to go in and say, hey, I do have some availability tomorrow at 8 or tomorrow at noon. What works better for you? Actually, I have an objection. Here's my objection. I'm not bringing it in, right? Oh, no big deal, Mr. Customer. Let's talk about that, right? So make sure we're going in and we're actually closing on these appointments. So very, very important. That's the goal of these. Should we show them?
Let's do it. I think so.
Cool. I think so. I think we should show them. Okay. So we'll give you an example. Here's a script up there. We'll mostly stick to this. We'll be a little different, but make it your own. But this is kind of our script. And at the end, we'll kind of give a little bit of a breakdown and have some time for some questions. So
Certainly. Awesome. You want to be my customer?
yeah, I'd love to.
Okay. All right. Thank you for choosing Elite Worldwide. This is Sabrina. How may I help you?
Hi, Sabrina. I need to get a price on some brakes for my Camry.
Absolutely. I can help you with that. You said some brakes on your Camry. Is that right? What kind of what year are we talking here for the Camry?
Yeah, it's a 2015 Camry.
2015 Camry. Okay. And like I said, my name is Sabrina. May I ask who I'm speaking with?
Yeah, my name's Tom.
Tom. Awesome. Tom, have you been here before?
I haven't.
You haven't. Excellent. Well, thanks for giving me a call. May I ask who referred you to us?
No one referred me. I just found you guys online.
Okay, awesome. Online, did you get a chance to look at our awesome reviews, Tom?
I did. I saw that you guys have a lot of really good reviews. Ultimately, that's why I decided to give you guys a call.
Great. That's perfect, Tom. I'm glad you got a couple moments to look at that. All right. So you said you need brakes on the Camry 2015. What makes you think you need brakes on your Camry, Tom?
When I go to stop, I hear like this hissing noise coming from the brakes.
Okay. Hissing noise when coming from the brakes. Only when you stop. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So only when you stop. And I'm just taking down some notes here, Tom. Are there any lights that come on the dashboard?
No, no lights. Not that
No
I've seen.
lights that you've seen. Okay. And about how long did you say this has been going on?
Um, Probably about a couple weeks now, I think. Yeah, probably about 2 weeks, maybe 3. Probably, I think 2 weeks.
Okay. About 2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
And is there anything else that you've noticed unusual about your Camry?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay, no, nothing else. Awesome. Okay, so Tom, based off what you told me with that noise we got, that hissing noise whenever you stop, there's a couple different things that could be causing that, okay? The good news though, we can definitely help you with this. What I would recommend is let's get it in here. Let's perform our comprehensive brake inspection. That way we can look at all of the braking components, right? There's pads, there's calipers, there's hoses, and I want to have my certified technician, Clayton, he's at my brake specialist, he's awesome. I want to have him take a look at your Camry, okay? So we can give you the peace of mind that we're going to get rid of that hissing noise the first time that we take care of that. For that brake inspection, it's only going to be $79.95. And then we're also going to perform our full once-over to get a good baseline health for your Camry as well. I do have availability today, or I can get you in tomorrow at 8 a.m. Which of those would work best for you, Tom?
Uh, well, can can you at least like give me like a ballpark of like how much it would be to cost? I'm just kind of calling around looking for a quote. Like, can you give me like an idea?
Yeah, certainly. Hey, I completely understand. And listen, I know price is important to you, and it's definitely important to me too. Based off what you've told me though, right now, I do have more questions than answers. I don't know exactly what's causing that hissing noise in your brakes, or if it could be something else, not within that braking system, Tom. I want to make sure that whatever quote I give you, it's going to be the quote that takes care of that hissing noise for you and get you back on the road without that noise. So I'd really like to get in here. I think it's going to give you that peace of mind that you need to get that brake inspection done first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Totally. That makes sense. Can you just give me like a range though, like a ballpark, like high low or something?
Yeah, hey, again, I completely understand. See, what I feel like when I give you that quote, right? When I kind of give you this number, this estimate, I feel like that might hinder our relationship. I really want to make sure, Tom, that you and I start off relationship on the right foot. And so by giving this number, I may be doing a disservice to you by having a number in your mind that may not be what it is whenever you come in. And again, I want to make sure that we start a relationship off on the right foot. You mentioned earlier you found us on Google, right? You got to take a look at those reviews. Hopefully you've seen in there that, we've been in business for over, 25 years, and we really pride ourselves on building a relationship with our clients that's based off honesty and transparency. So I want to make sure that you and I start that relationship off right as well, Tom. So I'd really love to get you in here for this, and I'd love to invite you in to have a cup of coffee while you wait, while we do this brake inspection. Would today work for you? I have availability now or tomorrow at 8 a.m.
Yeah, I could bring it in at 2. I could do that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. 2 o'clock. Very good. And then, Tom, can I have the correct spelling of your last name?
Yep, it's Amero,
Amero. Okay. And the best number that I can reach you at?
207-745-0881.
81. Okay. Perfect. And is this your cell phone or work
Yep.
number?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, Tom, do you know where we're located?
You guys are on the corner of First and Main, is that right?
Yep. Yep, exactly. First and Main. I've got you down here. So I've got you coming in at 2 p.m. Okay, we're going to do that brake inspection for you on that Camry, figure out exactly what's going on for you. And I think you're making an awesome choice by getting this brake inspection done, Tom. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't think so. No.
All right. Is there anything else I can help you with, Tom?
Yeah. I mean, do you guys have any of those black ice air fresheners? Could I get one of those?
Yeah, you must have seen those Google reviews. We're pretty popular for those. I've got a whole box of them under my desk. I'll make sure you get one of those as well.
That sounds great. Awesome. Thanks, Sabrina.
Thank you so much, Tom. I look forward to meeting you soon.
Great. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, sweet. That was really good. Really, really good. So we've got 3 minutes here, so I want to break down a few things, but we want to make time for questions. Looks like there's a couple questions in here. If anybody has any questions, post them in there. But did you notice how one, like she was, a great, great greeting, right? Very warm, very open, great tonality. Asked a lot of these fact-finding questions. She was engaging in the relationship right before just saying, "Oh yeah, we got to inspect it," right? She didn't just jump there, right? And then before giving me the price for the inspection, she told me, hey, like we're going to do this comprehensive brake inspection. We're going to look at your pads, your calipers, your rotors, your hoses. We're going to be able to give you this detailed information of everything we find out about your vehicle with pictures. We're going to do our comprehensive health and safety inspection as well of your whole Camry, right? And then it's only $79.95, right? I can get you in, and then straight from the price, I can get you scheduled in now. I can get you in at 2, or get you in later, or tomorrow. What works best for you, right? So straight through, right? So we give value, give the price, and then we go in for the close. This is a really important strategy, really important process there, right? Get an objection, we give a response, we get an objection, we give a response. One of the important things to recognize with this too is sometimes people just need a little time to process and time to kind of come on board with this, right? They kind of may be a little hesitant. They don't really know why, but it's just in our nature. We are hesitant, right? We are resistant to change, resistant to movement, and so they give a no, and then we have to be able to be okay with a couple no's, right? We just kind of outlast the no's. I say like bullets in the gun, bullets in the chambers, right? And so she had a few things to say here, right? Hey, right now all we're talking about is the investment and the inspection, right? Or hey, like it's very complex right now. We have more questions than answers, right? And then, excuse me, then she went into a great PSP, which was awesome. Hey, you said you saw all our Google reviews. We really pride ourselves on giving great service, right? That was great. And then she resold the service and got me all scheduled in. So great examples, Sabrina. That was awesome. Okay, so we've got some questions in here, I think. I heard once that if they say no, must mean that a job wasn't sold right. That's possible. That's possible. I like to say, when it comes to objections, the best way to handle an objection is to not have any, right? So like I think that's kind of what you're alluding to, right? If we do a fantastic job in laying out the framework, I promise you will experience less objections. The better you get at seeing them ahead of time and being strategic with the way you handle your phone call, the way you handle with selling service, right? All these different things, they will mitigate a lot of objections, but they won't make them all go away. Objections are a part of life. They're a part of your job. They are just, it's a fact of life, right? And so there will be some no's, there will be some hesitation, and it's our job to be able to be prepared to handle those. But that's a great point. Like I said, I love mitigating those by doing all the groundwork, right? If we do the groundwork correctly, right? If you ask these good fact-finding questions, you will get less objections, right? That's how it works.
Yeah. We have to realize that when we ask fact-finding questions too, we're helping to educate the client, right? They usually, maybe they went to Google or something, or maybe a friend told them and they think it's pretty simple. They don't realize that other things could be going on, right? And so if we ask these good questions, we really are educating them like, okay, wow, I didn't realize extra things go into this, right? Maybe this is a little bit more complicated than I was initially thinking it was.
Yeah. Okay, we are right at the hour mark, so we're calling it out. If you've got to go and get back on the counter, please by all means do so. There is a few other questions, so Sabrina and I do have a little extra time. We will stay and answer these questions. But if you have to go, I understand. Please hop off. This is going to be recorded and we'll send it out. So don't worry that you're going to miss that. I love this next question. This is really good and it's very loaded. What if we charge by the hour, not general price for a break check? And any advice when customers want to bring their own parts, which is not in our business practice. So that's both of those are really.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the first one, and then you can polish up what I miss, and then grab the second one too if you want, Sabrina. So what do we do when we charge by the hour? Well, one, stop.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
yes.
what I was gonna say.
No, just kidding. So first, like you need to have a conversation with the shop owner, management, things like that, and potentially look at restructuring that. We are firm believers that your labor rate is an internal number, not an external one. That is your labor rate per hour. When you're charging for testing, you don't want to be like, oh, it's an hour of testing. It's a half hour of diag, right? Get rid of diag, right? It's a half hour of testing. It's an hour of testing. Don't get rid of the time too, right? We're firm believers that make it simple, right? Like you've got a level 1 testing, level 2 testing, level 3 testing. You can come up with specific system testing. There's a lot of research on this, and also you can utilize ChatGPT to kind of start creating some of this stuff. But we would encourage you to move away from the selling of time increments for testing rather than a level of testing or a package of testing. Sell it in that way, and it's about the dollar, not about the time, right? The time doesn't matter. That's an internal number, right? When you go to get an MRI from the doctor, you're not looking at the MRI bill that says, oh, the MRI machine used this much electricity, so I'm paying this. The machine build, I'm paying this much of the machine build, and this their utility loan on the MRI machine, so I've got to pay this portion of that. The technician's time I pay, right? Like they don't break it down like that, right? It's an MRI. Same thing, it's a test, right? So like you sell the test. Hopefully that helps. And then do you want to? What was the next piece of that?
Yeah, really quickly, just to kind of hit on that, and maybe you said this and I missed it, but you guys can have multiple different packages, right? You can have, we had like level 1, level 2, level 3, brake inspection, AC, evac, and recharge. We had like noise inspection, starting system inspections, right? Like you can come up with an array of different packages. Sit down with your owners, your managers, your technicians, especially, right? They need to be very involved in creating these packages or these levels of testing that you have. But I agree. I stay away from per hour, right? Here's the other thing, and we're going to get
Sorry, real quick. Sorry, again, on the back end of that, sorry, you just reminded me. On the back end of that, obviously, for the shop system, you understand that when you create this, you build in a labor
right.
amount, right? So there is an amount of time that's tied to it, so and you can pay the technician for the time and all these different things, right? But for the customer's perspective, they don't need to, like, we don't talk in time in sense of time for the customers, right? Because one thing we want to avoid is like if you sell a job or it's testing or whatever, and it's like this much time, and then all of a sudden, like they come back and it was done in a half hour early or an hour early because your technician is phenomenal. He's been doing this for 40 years and he can do a 4 hour job in 3 hours. Are you going to penalize him and discount, right? Like he was really efficient, right? So we just have to, like I said, be careful of selling in terms of time. But anyways, we'll get off that.
No, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, right? Like we never want to punish our technicians if it takes them or if they get done sooner with the testing or even a repair than what the client thinks the time was, right? If you say an hour, just like Tom's saying there, that technician probably spent extra hours, right, that he wasn't getting paid for to be able to work as efficiently as he now can. So he shouldn't be punished for that. So yeah, that's what I was going to say there. And then I think scrolling back up here, any advice when customers want to bring in their own parts, which is not our business practice, you've got to help them see what's in it for them, right? With them, for you providing the parts. So for me, it's usually painting that picture of like, hey, this is going to come with our 5-year, 50,000-mile warranty. That means if something were to happen, I'm going to take care of you. So let's say this is nationwide too, right? Let's say you're out of town and you go to, if something's going on, right? You call me, I'm going to get you towed to a location where they can take a look at it. They then come and they say, hey, this is a component you recently replaced. We're going to take care of you, both parts and labor. So you won't have to drive up to the shop. You won't have to get those parts, drive them back to return them, right? To wherever you got them, or maybe ship them off if you had them shipped to you, then wait for them to come back available, bring them back to me, and then pay me again to replace those parts. Instead of, we'll just avoid all that. I'll put in these great quality parts that come with our 5-year, 50,000-mile warranty, and you know that you're taken care of, right? Provide you that peace of mind that I've got you. So you really have to put it in a way that they're going to understand, because oftentimes clients aren't thinking about the fact that if that part breaks, they have to pay you again to take it out. They have to go get that part themselves and return it to wherever they got it from, then bring it back to you, then pay you again to reinstall it, right? So we kind of have to paint that picture for them to help them see the benefit of it.
So this comment on here, Angie, great comment, right? We let them know that bringing in their own parts, if it breaks, would not be warranted through our shop, and encourages them to just let us fix it with their own parts. That's fine. If that's part of your policy and that's working, that's okay. But I bet if you were to ask your technicians, if you were to ask your shop management, if they are tracking this, like as part of their KPIs, if they're tracking comebacks, which they should be if they're not, right? Like if you're tracking it, more often than not, the comeback, like the people who bring in their own parts, there's more issues with those parts than with parts that you source, right? That's pretty common, right? So something you can say, kind of going along with Sabrina, maybe you don't even have a warranty, right? Maybe that can't come into the conversation, or maybe you do, right? Maybe you want to simplify this, right? Like, hey, Mr. Customer, we've done that in the past, and time again, when people bring in their own parts, it tends to bring more problems than they're looking for. And at ABC Automotive, we really pride ourselves in getting the job done right the first time. We source quality components. We pay for a lot of training for our technicians so that we know that the job will be done right the first time, and we even back it with a warranty. So that's why we don't use customer supplied parts, because we want to make sure that you're not having the headache of coming back in and fixing this part multiple times when customer supplied parts tend to break more often than when we supply them ourselves. Right. So you can kind of take that angle of, hey, like, we want to do this right the first time, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What else is in here? What if they are dead set on getting a ballpark quote and they just won't take no or bring the vehicle in for an inspection? That's a great question. You have to decide what you want to do. Personally, I would rather lose the sale than give them a price on the phone, because you're going to be wrong no matter what you say, right? Like, you're either going to be too expensive and they won't come in, or you'll be too cheap, and then when they get it in, it's not actually the price and they're mad at you, right? There's just no winning, right? So we're going to give you some examples on how to avoid that situation, but ultimately it's too complicated to just give them a price, right? Like, there's too many components. We don't know exactly what's going on. There's too many moving pieces. We have seen, and you can say this because I almost guarantee you, someone at your shop has seen this, right? We have seen where someone brings in a quote from another place and it's exactly what the vehicle needs, and they say, hey, this is what this company showed me, and it's not the case, right? So oftentimes the previous inspections or previous quotes, they aren't necessarily exactly what's going on with the vehicle. Our technicians are ASE certified. We have incredibly skilled diagnosticians, and they're really good. Bring that quote in because it'll help us to kind of target, be a little bit more specific and quicker for you. But we will make sure that this is an accurate quote and this is right, and then we'll be able to compare apples to apples, right? But yeah, I don't give price on the phone, right? That's what I would do.
Yeah. No, I love
Um,
that. I love the apples to apples thing too. Really quickly, Gina mentioned, or she asked about like the brake inspection. That's what I like to call it, right? It's just a, brake inspection. And I'm going to send you guys all out this script that you see on the screen. So you can kind of see here. Tom, I don't know if you're able to like point to where it's at on the screen here, but this is where it is used, where they talk about the comprehensive brake inspection over on that second page at the very top over there. So like Tom kind of mentioned earlier to you guys, we don't want to wait to tell them the price or the inspection that we want. We want to say that pretty early on. So I like to say, hey, let's get it in here. Let's do that brake inspection. It's only $79.95. But Gina, that's what I like to call it, and that's where it's kind of mentioned in the script.
Yep. Awesome. Another thing I just remembered that I wanted to circle back on with that question of like the price, the needing a ballpark.
Yeah.
One thing that may be causing this, sometimes we cause this, right? So remember the mind is binary. So like if you give like let's say Sabrina was like, hey, I said, hey, can you give me an idea on how much it could cost to repair it? And she says something like, well, honestly, I just don't know yet. We have more questions than answers. And then she just kind of pauses, right? What am I gonna do? We're having a conversation right now about pricing, and I want pricing. So she says something. My mind is binary. I'm thinking about price. I'm going to then say, well, come on. You got to have some idea. Well, I really don't. Blah 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 blah. She's going to say something else. Then if she stops again, I'm still stuck thinking about pricing. So don't forget when we're handling these objections, a really key component is moving on. Right? We provide the solution, right? So every time that she answered this question of mine, right? Can you give me an idea how much it would cost? I can't, here's the reason why, right? Like I'm simplifying that, right? Like we don't say no, right? Like, hey, that's a great question, right? Hey, great comment, right? Whatever it is, right? But then she moved on after her answer of, hey, like I said, like, I can get you in today, I can get you tomorrow, what works best for you, right? We're trying to move that thought process on after answering the question. If we just answer the question, we stay there, we're going to be stuck in that cycle and you'll never move on, right? So move it on. So with that.
I think
What else is in here, Sabrina? Anything?
that's it.
Okay. Awesome. Well, we're way over, so let's let them go. Let's give them the homework. Again, this will be emailed out if they're not able
Yes.
to.
Yeah, some of you guys already had to leave, so no big deal. For those that are still here, bye, Gina. We do have some homework. I am going to send this out, a reminder to the owners and managers, unless your email was put on registration. So if you don't get an email from me by the end of today, please follow up with them to get this information. But your first homework assignment is going to be to role play the script that I'll include in the email. Set up a time, role play it out, okay? And then implement the script in a real life call. So use it as a guide for handling those incoming calls. And remember that it may feel a little unnatural or a little robotic at first. Keep trying it, okay? Keep practicing. And then review a recorded call with your owner or manager. If by chance your system doesn't record calls, maybe just bring out your phone and record a phone call, okay? And then go back and listen to it and kind of ask yourself, what were my strengths? What did I do really well, right? Where could I have made improvements? And how would have this new process, this new procedure made or enhanced my approach if I had used that? Okay, so it's kind of some self-discovery to do. But that's all. That's all I got for him, Tom.
Perfect. I love it. We already did questions, so thanks
Very
for
good.
being here, everybody.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next week for our final session. Bye.
Have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. We'll see you next week.